You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. And be sure to smash that like button. Every Tuesday, joined by Shea Dixon on 3 the Bengal Tiger. Talk some Cruton. Shady, how are you, man?
I'm doing well. How are you, Matt?
I'm doing really well. I guess we can start there with the news of the day. John Emery, Joe Cryer hit the portal. Maybe a thought on both?
Yeah, well, John Emery obviously was one who, given he wasn't part of LSU spring ball, that it was, hey, I'm going to test the NFL draft and kind of just see where things go. And quite clearly, along the way, was able to say, hey, look, either enter the draft pool or I maintain my eligibility. And I'm guessing he did hire an agent or something of that route because now he's in the portal. And he got, I talked to some sources, a medical for one of his years. Obviously, had multiple years where he was banged up, and there was a COVID year in there. So he's got one more year of eligibility left. Will be expected to graduate here from LSU, get his degree in May, and then off to his next stop, which I presume for John would be somewhere where he can get some high usage and try to get back to form, both health-wise and then on the field, because certainly we've seen when he's been healthy and at his best, he's dominant. He's turned games around, whether it was Auburn or others over the years. And then Joe Cryer, obviously a little bit of a surprise, right? I mean, for a December signee to already be hitting the portal, but we know they're in a numbers crunch. They are now to 82 scholarship players. And the max is 85, but we know that they're also heavily involved in the portal, and we're not sure if attrition is done yet with LSU players entering the portal. He got 7 more days of that window, but with Cryer, I think that they're obviously to lead off. There's probably a lot of nuances to this that I'm not privy to, and the public isn't and won't be, and whichever direction, Cryer wanted to go or however it unfolded, in terms of just on the field, we expected him to come in and be that backup center, and DJ Chester obviously being the heir apparent there to Charles Turner, and he took all the first-team reps in the spring. What I think threw things off a bit was that, remember, right kind of late in the period, Matt, that Brad Davis had 5 linemen, and all of a sudden he flips a 6th guy in Cohen Eccles from Texas A&M, who was ranked as an interior offensive lineman, and Cohen comes in and instead of playing guard, plays center, and he was kind of talked up a lot this spring. So him being an early enrollee, it seems like those two, 1 and 2 deeps are taken up, and for Cryer, if he's wanting to play center or maybe at least go somewhere else and play guard and see the field a little bit more quickly, getting into the portal now and asking for your release. So he got released from his national letter of intent in LI, something we don't say as much or as often as we do in IL anymore, but got released from that, so he's good to go wherever he wants to go and would be immediately eligible and ready to play wherever in the fall.
So, Shea, you talked about the numbers. So LSU's down to 82. Do you anticipate there's a desire to add as many as 3 scholarship players via the portal?
I would paint it as this, and again, this is a discussion that's happening in personnel departments across the country daily that would take hours to talk about, but whatever number they settle on of guys leaving, if it's 82, if it's 81, if it's 80, 79, whatever it is, they'll add players. I think that they'll add a few defensive tackles if everything goes well for them, and we could see them hit some best availables. But it wouldn't shock me if they didn't get to the 85, because you always like to have that little bit of wiggle room, not just because of the portal, but look, we're talking about a crunch right now. If a year from now you're anticipating being in the same crunch, then you have a couple of scholarships already freed up to where you're not over the max like they were this year, where I think they're up to 21 guys who have hit the portal between the first portal window and this one. Obviously, much of it due to natural attrition. There were some Lance Hurds in there that people didn't see coming and certainly wished he would have stuck around for, but I think that's just kind of the nature of where we're at right now with having to stay at 85 or under and then throwing in the portal.
Shea Dixon on 3 the Bengal Tiger. So let's talk about the portal and then where the targets are. Obviously, defensive line is where everybody's starting. Brian Kelly has stated it on the record. That's going to be their target. Catch us up, Shea, on where we are, understanding that Philip Bleedy, the Indiana transfer, picked Auburn. We know that. What about the rest of the guys that are still on the board? What do we know?
Yeah, so we know that they've got one in, right? Gio Paez out of Wisconsin, who comes as a grad transfer. He'll get here this summer. Will finish up at Wisconsin, transfer in. And he's a guy I talked to him. Look, he started games last year. He was going to start for Wisconsin this year, but he wants to be in a four-down system. And Bo Davis called, and he was in. So you've got one. I think they want to get to three. And they've got a couple visiting. One just wrapped his visit up, and another coming later in the week. But Simeon Barrow had been in town since Sunday. He's coming out of Michigan State. He left today. I'm supposed to catch up with him, so we'll see how he thought of the visit and what he's doing next, because obviously LSU did get his first visit, but boy, are teams not from coast to coast, literally Miami to Southern Cal, blowing him up to try to get him to say, hey, look, don't commit right away, take some visits, at least come see us, because this is at least for On3, the highest ranked uncommitted D tackle in the portal. 30 starts, over 100 career tackles. This is an instant starter wherever he goes. And then later this week, and he's a grad student. On the flip side, Matt, you've got a guy in Dominick Williams coming out of TCU who hit the portal and has multiple years of eligibility. He's only a sophomore, but has started every game in the first 2 years, was on that TCU team that went to a national title, and really has been considered one of their best players in both seasons. And now he hits the portal in the spring, and that was one that TCU folks I talked to said, hey, look, if there was a guy we could circle on this team that they could not afford to lose, it was him, and he did. So he's got a bunch of visits already lined up, but lines up his LSU win for this weekend. Sunday, I believe he gets on campus Friday, leaves on Sunday, I believe is his schedule, and then we'll have a decision not soon thereafter. And look, 7 more days of the portal is how long it's open. I'm not ruling out at all that more guys hit that LSU would be interested in.
Speaking of Williams, real quick, Shea, I see On3 has him. It looks like it's Colorado, LSU, or sort of the two teams that appear to be the front runner on, at least according to On3 there. Can you walk us through how those percentages pop? It's a Colorado 42, LSU 37%. I mean, is that just walk us through those numbers and what other possibilities might be out there?
Yeah, that's really a breakdown. It's tough for portal guys. When you're talking about the On3 RPM, it's easier to view from high school guys because it tracks how many times you visited campus, a number of different indicators into your recruitment, and then picks made for those schools, and that's what kind of delineates who maybe is up top as the perceived favorite and second place and all that. With portal guys, it's a little different because picks haven't gone in yet, but I will say, for Dominick Williams, a lot of teams are here in the mix, and he was already at Texas, checking out the OU spring game as well. LSU's on his list, and I believe he had, including Colorado, 2 more visits in that little mix. I think it was 4 or 5 visits in a row. So right away from hitting the portal, he got on the road, and I think in the span of 7 or 8 days is going to see, 5 or 6 schools.
Shea Dixon On3, the Bengal Tiger. A couple more, and I do want to ask you about one big-time high school prospect from Louisiana for 2026 in just a quick second. We talked about running back. With only 3 guys because of the uncertainty of Trey Holly, if there is a must-take player at running back, would they consider that for this portal class?
I think you consider it. Here's how I would, if I'm in the mind of Frank Wilson, the running backs coach, I would be approaching it. I think Trey Holly's expected back on the team. I think you already knew you were going into next season with 4 running backs, and they didn't really have any action in the first portal window in that regard. So it didn't seem like an immediate need for him, and obviously does that change in the spring? Well, the only thing that's changed is Holly's been away from the team. If he's expected back, I think they feel good about this group. That said, if you're going to take a portal running back, think about it in these terms. You have Caden Durham about to show up on campus, who is tearing Texas apart in track right now with just some unbelievable times for a 200-plus pounder who was on a back-to-back state title team. Then you've got next year committed the number 1 running back in Harlem Berry from New Orleans, and then the number 11 running back in J.T. Lindsey from Alexandria. So you've got help on the way. You can always get into the portal next year if you need to at running back. But if you took anyone this year, Matt, because of those guys coming, you would only probably entertain a guy that would have 1 year of eligibility remaining and wasn't here wanting 15 carries, 20 carries, because you've got Josh Williams and Caleb Jackson and Trey Holly and Caden Durham. So if they were to take a portal running back, I think it would be an insurance guy who can just be there, be reliable, and step up if some guys go down.
Shea Dixon on 3, the Bengal Tiger. One more for you, Shea. I was asked on the text line about JaMarr Stewart for 2026. The latest there, and any buzz about like possibly reclassifying. What can you tell us is the latest with the big defensive lineman from St. Aug?
Yeah, he had talked about on On3. He came on one of the podcasts with Philip Dukes and said he had thought about the idea of reclassifying, but really wanted to take some visits right now and then think about it in the summer and then line up if he had to reclassify, taking some classes and what he would need to do to then be ready to graduate a year early. But no decision made there. I think right now what people are kind of reacting to is that he is making his big wave of visits. And again, this is a kid from St. Aug, New Orleans, number one player in the country, number one D lineman, he's got to play D tackle. Like as much as we talked about for this whole segment, their need for D linemen and D tackles. You've got the number one guy sitting in your backyard coming off of a year of this past cycle, at least, where you signed Dominick McKinley, the number one player and a 5-star, but made a visit to USC. He's got some connections there that I think he kind of has the Trojans in the mix. He's looked at Ohio State, been up there. But at the end of the day, I think this is going to be one that plays out, and LSU gets a bunch of visits. And look, they want to lock down Louisiana. Frank Wilson's on staff in recruiting New Orleans, and obviously Bo Davis here. I'm still betting on the Tigers if you were to ask me to pick somebody.
Shea, does LSU have any ties to St. Aug?
I don't know where Tyrann Mathieu went. That'd probably be the only one. I think that's the only guy I even think of. But he was a 3-star, so I'm not worried about him.
Suffice to say, the road from Baton Rouge there to Purple Knight territory has been paved in gold for quite a while, and LSU should feel pretty good about it. Shea Dixon on 3, the Bengal Tiger. Y'all follow him at Shea Dixon. You're the best, man. We always appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, I'm not a St. Aug grad. I'm not that smart. So moving on.
We can't all be. Hey, but St. Aug is no Calico. I mean, all I remember is, hey, look, you go back and look up the 1999 state quarterfinals down at Gormley. I mean, Calico 14, Aug 7. It was a pretty good day. I heard the starting right guard for Catholic had a big day that day. Just saying. You want to check it out.
Oh, I love it. We'll end it there. I'll talk to you later.
Bye, Shea. We'll see you. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.